Mozart, with his famous and legendary life, many rumours and myths have formed since his death. One famous myth that he was buried in a pauper's grave and died penniless, dumped into an anonymous mass pit while it rained. In reality, Mozart was buried in a common grave, which was the standard middle-class burial in 1791 Vienna. It wasn't a mass pit for the poor, it was an individual plot that the city had the right to reuse after 10 years, making his body now lost to history, and we know that the weather was calm and dry. Another myth is that a reusable coffin was used with a trapdoor. It comes from confusion that stems from a short-lived law in 1784 where Emperor Joseph II insisted on reusable coffins to save wood, but the law was revoked just 6 months later after a public outcry, and historical records confirm that Mozart's wife Constanza and his patron Baron van Swieten purchased a standard wooden coffin for him. One of the most persistent myths about Mozart, the image of him as a divine composer, someone who could simply transcribe perfect finished music directly from his head to the page without a single mistake. It's a largely 19th century invention. The source of the myth, Friedrich Rochlitz, comes from a famous letter published in 1815. In this letter, Mozart allegedly describes his process as a passive experience where the music just appears to him like a vivid dream. The reality, historians have proven this letter was a forgery. Rochlitz was a publisher who wanted to lean into the romantic ideal of a tortured and divinely inspired genius. If you look at Mozart's actual manuscripts, you see how much more human the process was. We have about 320 surviving sketches. In these drafts, these show how Mozart, wrestling with difficult sections, particularly fugues and string quartets, he often had to work out complex counterpoint where multiple melodies overlap on scraps of paper before writing the final score, with great proof of this being the Haydn string quartets. Mozart famously dedicated a set of string quartets to his friend Joseph Haydn, calling them the fruit of long and laborious study. The manuscripts of these are filled with crossed out ink blots and revisions. The drafting method. For large orchestral works, Mozart would often write the melody and the bass line first as the skeleton for the piece, then he would go back in and fill the middle parts for violas, woodwinds, etc. If he got bored or stuck, he would leave the manuscript unfinished. This is why we have dozens of fragments that simply stop mid-page.